The Opala was launched here in Brazil back in 1968, and throughout its entire history, it had only one generation. However, General Motors carried out various facelifts to keep the car modern and up-to-date for the Brazilian market until its production ended in 1992. The most significant update came in 1980, which gave the model a more 1980s look. But what almost no one knows is that our Opala was just one chapter in a much bigger story. While Brazil had only one generation of the Opala, more modern generations of this car were being released in Europe. Yes, the Opala kept evolving abroad, and it had several generations on the European continent, which few people here are familiar with in detail. And that's exactly what you'll see in this video. The Opala project officially started on November 23, 1966, when General Motors do Brasil introduced the so-called Project 676 to the press at an event held at the Clube Atlético Paulistano in São Paulo. The mission was to launch a large-sized car that was perfectly suited to Brazilian tastes and conditions. This would be Chevrolet's first fully Brazilian passenger car. The project was based on the European Opel Record C, the third generation of the Record, essentially the European Opala, while the engines used in our Opala came from a more North American lineage. For example, the 2.5L four-cylinder engine was already familiar in the U. Launched in 1962 in the Chevrolet Nova, marking the first time in over 3 decades that Chevrolet offered a four-cylinder engine. The 3.8L six-cylinder engine, which also equipped the Opala, came from the 1963 Chevrolet Impala but was a reworking of a 1929 engine known as the Chevrolet Stovebolt, a pretty outdated engine by 1960s standards. The car's design wasn't simply copied from the Record. The Brazilian GM team made various visual adaptations to the Opel Record, inspired in part by the Chevrolet Impala. These changes included reinforced bumpers, redesigned taillights, round headlights, and the famous curvy side profile reminiscent of a Coca-Cola bottle. The result was an instant success. In November 1968, at the 6th São Paulo Auto Show, the Opala made its public debut and stole the spotlight. Its modern design for the time, spacious interior, and promise of reliability won over the public. It was sold for a long 24 years, but the Record story in Europe started much earlier. The Brazilian Opala was actually the 6th generation of the Record, which had 9 generations in total. The Opel Record generations in Europe: first generation, Olympia Record, 1953 to 1957, replaced the Opel Olympia, launched in 1935, called Olympia Record, only in Germany. Elsewhere it was just Record. 4.24m long, 2.49m wheelbase, large for the time. American-style design, high hood/trunk, wide grille. Interior, horizontal speedometer, white steering wheel with horn ring, column shifter. RWD, front independent suspension, rear rigid axle. Engines 1.5L, 52 horsepower, 1.7L, 63 horsepower. Station wagon, caravan, launched in 1954, even had a rare semi-convertible version, sold over 580,000 units. Second generation, Record P1, 1957 to 1960, more modern lines, longer wheelbase, plus 5 cm, overall length, plus 18 cm, more American styling, curved windshield/rear glass. Same engines, more interior refinement, sold about 855,000 units. Third generation, Record P2, 1960 to 1963, more European design, straighter lines, smaller, round tail lights, more sophistication. Coupe version introduced. 5L, 55 horsepower, 1.7L, 63 horsepower, sold around 754,000 units. Fourth generation, Record A, 1963 to 1965, major visual shift toward the Opala look. Headlights next to grille, straight hood and fenders. Sedan, 2 fourth-door, coupe, and caravan versions. New 2.6L inline 6, 115 horsepower, 1.7L, up to 75 horsepower. Fifth generation, Record B, 1965 to 1966, more of a facelift than a new generation. Introduction of overhead camshaft, OHC, engines, key technological leap. Engines 1.5L, 60 horsepower, 1.7L, 75 horsepower, 1.9L, 90 horsepower, 2.2Li6, 107 horsepower, produced for just 8 months. Sixth generation, Record C, 1966 to 1972, this was the basis for the Brazilian Opala. Launched 2 years before our Opala, had a 2-door sedan, which Brazil never got. Engines 1.5L, 58 horsepower, 1.7L, 60 to 75 horsepower, 1, 9L, 90 horsepower, later 2, 2Li6, 95 horsepower, performance model, Sprint 1, 9L twin carb, 106 horsepower, Opel Commodore derived from it. Luxury and performance, exclusive to i6 engines, highlight Commodore GC2, 5L fuel injected, 150 horsepower, 195 km per hour top speed, over 1.2 million units sold, 7th generation, record D, 1972 to 1977, shift to boxy, straight lines, 1st generation without vent windows, rear of the station wagon resembled the future Brazilian Miraggio, engines 1, 7L, 66 to 83 horsepower, 1, 9L, 97 horsepower, 2, 0L, 100 horsepower, 2, 3L diesel, 60 to 100 horsepower, first time with a diesel engine in 1973, 8th generation, record E1, 1977 to 1982, clean, square design, similar to the 1980s Monza and Chevette. Front suspension, McPherson strut. Engines 1, 7L, 60 horsepower, 1, 9L, 75 horsepower, 2, 0L, 90 to 110 horsepower, diesel 2, 0L and 2. 9th generation, record E2, 1982 to 1986, design evolved further, blending elements of the Omega and Monza. Aerodynamics improved, drag coefficient of 0. New engines 1, 8L, 90 horsepower, 2, 2L, 115 horsepower, 2, 3L turbo diesel, up to 85 horsepower in 1984.